The city is alive. But inside one particular store, the store that belongs to a nationwide chain, something feels different. A man steps out of a black sedan and adjusts the plain jacket on his shoulders. No tailored suit, no tie, no security entourage. Just him, a man who looks like any other customer. But beneath the disguise hides power, wealth, and authority, because this man is the CEO. Today, however, no one in this building knows it. He takes a slow breath and walks toward the entrance. The glass doors slide open with a soft hiss, and as he steps inside, the world changes. The smell of floor polish, the faint hum of cash registers, the scattered chatter of employees. Everything feels ordinary. But he didn't come here to see the ordinary. He came here to uncover the truth. Because whispers had reached him, complaints buried in anonymous letters. Rumors of poor treatment, hints that not all was well in his empire. And so, instead of boardrooms and spreadsheets, he chose this. A quiet disguise, a silent mission, and eyes wide open. He moves slowly, pretending to browse. His gaze sweeps across the aisles. To a casual observer, he's just another shopper. But in his mind, he's taking notes. At the front counter, he notices a cashier's forced smile, bright on the outside, but her eyes reveal exhaustion. Nearby, a young clerk rushes to stack shelves, moving too quickly, as though afraid of being scolded for taking too long. The CEO narrows his eyes. Something is off. An assistant manager walks past, barking orders at a trainee who looks barely out of high school. The trainee fumbles nervously, dropping a box, only to receive a glare sharp enough to cut glass. The CEO lingers, pretending to tie his shoe. Interesting, he thinks. The atmosphere here is heavy, not the kind of energy he had hoped to see in his company, not the pride and unity he wanted his brand to represent. He heads toward the back of the store. His footsteps echo softly against the tiled floor. He notices subtle things most customers would ignore. Shelves left dusty in corners. An employee wiping sweat from his brow while glancing nervously at the clock. A supervisor whispering harshly under her breath. Every detail paints a picture, and the picture is not flattering. As he rounds a corner, two employees speak in hushed tones, unaware of who stands just an aisle away. "Man, I can't keep doing this," one says. "They don't even pay us overtime," the other mutters. "And if you complain, you're done. You'll get written up in a heartbeat." The CEO freezes, his heart heavy. Is this really what it's come to? He keeps moving, his expression unreadable. Inside, though, questions race through his mind. Who's responsible for this? How deep does it go? And why didn't anyone report this openly? He knows he can't reveal himself yet. Not until he sees more. Not until he understands the root of the problem. So he walks further into the store. His eyes sharp, his presence invisible. Every sigh, every whisper, every nervous glance tells him more than any quarterly report ever could. And then, near the back of the building, he notices something unusual. A small supply closet door, slightly ajar. From inside comes the faintest sound, a stifled sob. The CEO pauses. His chest tightens. He edges closer, careful not to draw attention. Someone is inside that room, and they are crying. He takes a slow step forward, his heartbeat heavy with both concern and curiosity, because this moment, this sound, is about to change everything. And as he reaches for the door, the story truly begins. The faint sob behind the closet door still lingers in his mind as the CEO steps back into the aisles. He doesn't open it yet, not now. He needs a wider picture. He needs to see the full scope of what's happening before he unmasks the truth hidden in shadows. Though, he continues walking, blending in, listening, watching. At first, it's only fragments. Quick words exchanged when they think no customer is near. A sigh heavy enough to carry its own story. A roll of the eyes when a manager's back is turned. Little details that most people would miss, details that, together, paint a darker canvas. Two cashiers at the register lean close to each other, whispering as they scan items. "Did you hear? They cut our hours again this week." The other scoffs softly, forcing a plastic smile for the customer in front of her. "Yeah, and guess who still wants us to stay late, to close, without pay?" The CEO pretends to browse the shelves, heart tightening at every word. He knows policies. He knows what's supposed to happen. And this is not it. He drifts toward the stockroom entrance. A pair of employees sit on overturned boxers, hidden from view. Voices low but sharp with frustration. "I can't keep doing double shifts. Man, my mom's sick. I barely get home before midnight. You think they care?" The other answers bitterly. "We're just bodies to them. Replaceable, disposable." The words sting. The CEO clenches his jaw. His company was never meant to feel this way. This was supposed to be a place of opportunity. A place where people felt valued. But here, on the floor of his very own store, he hears the opposite. He rounds another aisle and spots a young worker with red eyes, stacking cans too quickly, hands trembling. A supervisor stands nearby, tapping her watch with a glare. "Faster," she hisses. "You're too slow. You want to go home early tonight? Then prove you're worth the paycheck." The worker lowers his head, silent, and keeps moving. The CEO's stomach twists. He feels anger rising, but he swallows it. Not yet. He must stay undercover. For now, the truth must keep unfolding on its own. Deeper into the store. Another voice rises above the hum of background music. Two clerks mutter near the cleaning supplies. My kid hasn't seen me awake in a week, one says, shoulders sagging. I leave before dawn, get home after dark. He thinks I don't care. Man, I feel that. The other replies. They pile on hours, and when you ask for a break, you're told to toughen up. Like we're not even human. The CEO pauses. His throat tightens. Behind the disguises and false smiles, the truth is here. Long shifts, broken spirits, silent suffering. And yet, none of this has reached him before. None of these complaints ever made it to the corporate level. Someone or something is keeping the truth hidden. A sense of unease deepens. How many of his stores are like this? How many people, across the company he built with pride, are living this silent struggle? The undercover CEO moves quietly to another aisle, pretending to check price tags. His ears catch yet another whisper, this time sharper, laced with fear. Don't say anything. They'll fire you if you talk. The words freeze him. Fire you for speaking. He knows then that this is no minor issue. This is not just one bad manager or one mistake. This is a culture of fear festering in his very own house. He presses his lips together, forcing calm. He can't act yet. To blow his cover now would mean hearing only rehearsed apologies, excuses, and denials. He needs the raw truth. The unfiltered voices of his people. As he walks past the staff lounge door, he hears laughter but not the joyful kind. It's mocking, cutting. A manager's voice rings out. If they don't like it here, they can leave. Plenty of others waiting to take their place. A chilling silence follows, broken only by the scrape of a chair. The CEO doesn't need to look inside. He already knows. The atmosphere is heavy, like a storm pressing down. Whispers swirl through the building, weaving a tapestry of exhaustion, frustration, and hidden pain. And though he has seen much already, he knows he hasn't reached the heart of it yet. Because somewhere in this store, one worker carries the weight heavier than all the rest. The one whose sobs echoed from the closet. The one whose story may explain everything. The CEO takes a steadying breath, his disguise intact, his mission sharpened. The whispers have spoken. The truth is bleeding through the cracks. And soon, he will follow the trail of pain to the man at its center, the janitor. Every great story has a moment when the camera slows. When the noise of the world fades, and the focus narrows on a single figure. For the undercover CEO, that moment arrives now. Across the aisle, hunched over a mop, is the janitor. An older man, his shoulders rounded with years of work. His uniform is faded, his shoes scuffed, and his hands calloused and cracked move, mechanically over the tiles. But it's not the mop or the bucket that draws the CEO's attention. It's the man's eyes. Downcast, heavy eyes that avoid contact with anyone who passes by. Eyes that tell a story far longer than any shift. The CEO lingers, pretending to check a shelf of cleaning supplies. His disguise still shields him, but inside, he feels exposed, because in the silence of that janitor's presence, he sees something raw. This isn't just an employee. This is a man carrying a weight invisible to the rest of the store. The janitor pauses for a moment, leaning on the mop handle, his chest rising and falling slowly. Then, with a deep sigh, he bends down again, scrubbing harder at a stain that probably doesn't even exist. The CEO notices how no one looks at him. Employees walk past, managers stride by, and not a single word is offered. To them, he is invisible, just part of the floor he cleans. But to the CEO, he is suddenly the most important person in the building. The undercover boss shifts closer, making it seem casual. He grabs a roll of paper towels from the shelf, lingering near the janitor. That's when he hears it, a whisper, barely audible. God, please, just give me strength to get through today. The CEO freezes. Those weren't words spoken for anyone else. That was a prayer, a plea from a man at the edge of breaking. The janitor rubs at his eyes quickly, hoping no one saw. Then he picks up the bucket and starts moving toward the back of the store. The CEO follows at a distance, his heart pounding. Each step raises more questions. Why is this man in such despair? Why does no one notice? And why does he feel like the answer to everything he's been searching for lies in this man's shadow? The janitor stops in a quiet corner, setting his bucket down. He leans against the wall, rubbing his temples, then quietly pulls something from his pocket, a folded photograph. The CEO strains his eyes. He sees the faint outline of a child smiling, full of life. The janitor stares at it for a long moment, lips trembling, before slipping it back into his pocket with shaking hands. Hang in there, buddy, the janitor whispers to himself. Daddy's trying. The CEO feels a lump rise in his throat. This isn't just about work conditions anymore. This is about survival. About a man fighting battles far bigger than a mop and bucket. And yet, nobody notices. Nobody stops. Nobody cares. The silence around the janitor is louder than any shout. It screams neglect. It screams loneliness. The CEO turns away for a second, struggling to compose himself. He's spent years in boardrooms talking about efficiency, profit, expansion. But here, On this cold tile floor, he sees the truth that no spreadsheet will ever capture. A man, loyal and scenist, drowning in plain sight. The janitor straightens suddenly, brushing at his cheeks, as though erasing the evidence of his pain. He grabs his mop again, returning to work like nothing happened, but the CEO knows better. This man's story is the thread that could unravel everything, and as he watches the janitor disappear down the next aisle, a quiet promise forms in his mind. I will not leave this store without learning the truth. The shadow has been seen. The question now is, what will it reveal? Sometimes the most powerful truths are not spoken aloud. They are whispered in silence, carried on a single tear. The CEO turns a corner and pauses. There, in a dimly lit storage hallway at the back of the store, the janitor sits slumped against the wall. His mop leans forgotten in the bucket beside him. His weathered hands cover his face, and then he breaks. A soft, stifled sob echoes through the narrow space. The sound pierces the CEO more than any angry complaint or whispered gossip he's heard so far. This isn't frustration. This isn't irritation. This is pain. Real, raw pain. For a moment, the CEO hesitates. His instinct is to walk forward, to reveal himself, to comfort the man and tell him he is not alone. But another voice inside him whispers, "Wait, listen, don't interrupt the truth." So he stays in the shadows, hidden behind a shelf of cleaning supplies, watching with heavy eyes. The janitor wipes at his cheeks with trembling fingers. His chest rises and falls in shallow, uneven breaths. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out the same folded photograph the CEO glimpsed earlier, and stares at it as though clinging to life itself. A child's smile beams back at him, the innocence of youth framed in a single picture. The janitor whispers under his breath, his voice cracked and broken, "Hold on, son. I'm trying. Daddy's trying." The words slice through the silence. The CEO feels his throat tighten, his fists clenching at his sides. He had expected to find mismanagement. He had expected to see stress. But this is different. This is heartbreak disguised as labor. The janitor presses the photo to his chest, whispering again, if I could just do more, maybe things would be better." The CEO's mind races. What has this man endured? What is he hiding behind those quiet eyes? A sudden noise interrupts the fragile moment, the sharp echo of footsteps. The janitor quickly stuffs the photograph back into his pocket, wiping furiously at his face. His composure is hastily rebuilt, though his eyes remain glassy. A manager strides past, not even glancing at him. Not a single word, not even acknowledgement that the man exists. The janitor lowers his head and pretends to adjust his mop. And just like that, the moment is gone. The pain tucked away once again behind routine and silence. The CEO, still hidden, feels anger coil inside him. He wants to step out, to challenge that manager, to demand why this man is treated as less than human. But he forces himself still. This isn't the time. Not yet. Instead, he takes a slow breath, committing every detail to memory. The loneliness in the janitor's posture, the desperation in his voice, the silent tears that no one else seems to see. And with every detail, the CEO feels the weight of his responsibility grow heavier. Because this isn't just about one janitor. This is about a system that allowed such suffering to go unseen. A system he is responsible for. The janitor rises slowly, shoulders hunched, and returns to his mop as though nothing happened. To anyone else, he is just a worker resuming his duties. But to the CEO, he has become the heart of the story, the symbol of everything that has gone wrong. The undercover boss whispers silently to himself, "I see you now, and I won't forget this." He watches the janitor disappear down the hallway, each step echoing with unspoken sorrow. And as the sound fades, the CEO knows the time for silence is ending. Soon, the truth will have to be faced. The room was silent, so silent that even the faint hum of the fluorescent lights above seemed deafening. In the far corner, the janitor's shoulders trembled. He thought he was alone. He thought no one was listening. But the undercover CEO was there, hidden in plain sight, watching, listening. And what he heard next would cut deeper than he ever expected. The janitor pressed his hands against his face, his voice breaking into whispers not meant for anyone's ears. "Lord, I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," he muttered. His words clung to the air, raw and unfiltered. The CEO froze. His heart pounded. He leaned slightly closer, careful not to reveal himself. Then came the confession. "My pay's late again." The janitor whispered, his tone carrying the weight of years of silent struggle. "They tell me to wait, always wait, but rent won't wait, medicine won't wait. My boy, he's still sick. What am I supposed to do?" The words stabbed the air like knives. The CEO felt them slice through his chest. The man before him wasn't just a janitor, he was a father, a provider, a man cornered by life and betrayed by the very system meant to protect him. The janitor's voice quivered as he continued, "Managers walk right by me. Some don't even look me in the eye, like I'm invisible, like I don't matter." His fists tightened against his knees. "But I've given this place everything, every night, every floor I scrub, every spill I clean, and still, nothing." The CEO could feel his throat dry, his palms growing warm with anger. He wanted to step out, reveal the truth, and promise the man justice. But something held him back. Something told him to listen a little longer. A pause. Then, softer now, almost to himself, the janitor said, "If I don't find a way, my boy won't make it. I can't lose him. Not after everything." The CEO's chest tightened. His own reflection shimmered in a nearby glass panel. And for the first time in years, he saw not the powerful figure he had built himself into but the boy he once was. A boy who had also watched his family struggle, and in that moment, he knew. This wasn't just one man's burden. It was a mirror. The janitor buried his face in his hands again, shaking silently. The sound of muffled sobs echoed through the empty room. The CEO turned away for a moment, his jaw clenched, eyes burning. He whispered to himself, "How many more voices like his have gone unheard?" It was a silent confession, yet it spoke volumes. Every broken word revealed cracks in a company the CEO thought he knew. But what he didn't know yet was just how deep the rot went. And as he took a slow step back into the shadows, one thought echoed louder than the janitor's cries. This is only the beginning. The silence was unbearable. The undercover CEO's chest tightened as he stood in the shadows, listening to the janitor's sobs fade into shaky breaths. He could no longer stay hidden. With slow, measured steps, he walked forward. His shoes echoed faintly against the polished floor, and the janitor's head jerked up in surprise. The older man quickly wiped his face with the back of his sleeve, embarrassed to have been caught so vulnerable. His eyes darted nervously, as if being seen crying was a crime. The CEO, still masked in the role of an ordinary worker, softened his tone. "Hey, I'm sorry to intrude. I didn't mean to startle you." The janitor forced a weak smile. No, it's nothing. Just allergies," he muttered, clearly lying. The CEO tilted his head, lowering his voice. "Doesn't look like allergies. You okay, man?" For a long moment, the janitor said nothing. His hands fidgeted with the edge of his mop handle, his gaze locked on the floor he had spent years cleaning. Finally, he exhaled. A long, tired sigh. "You ever feel like no matter how hard you work, it's never enough?" His voice cracked as he spoke. "Like the world just doesn't see you?" The CEO swallowed hard. "Yeah, I've felt that before." And in truth, he had, long before the corner office, long before the board meetings. He knew the sting of being overlooked. The janitor chuckled bitterly, shaking his head. "I scrub these floors every night. I've been here longer than most of the managers who walk past me, but they treat me like I'm part of the mop bucket." He paused, his voice trembling now. "And the pay? It's late again, always late. I can't even keep up with my son's medicine." The CEO clenched his jaw. Every word hit like a hammer. Still, he forced himself to stay in character. He had to hear it all. "Your son, he's sick." The janitor's eyes filled again. He nodded slowly. "Asthma bad. Some nights he can't breathe. The doctor says he needs stronger treatment, but without the money," his voice broke. "Without the money, I can't give it to him." The CEO felt his throat tighten. He wanted to scream that help was already here, that things were about to change, but he held his tongue. Instead, he whispered, "That's a lot to carry on your own." The janitor let out a bitter laugh. "On my own is right. Management doesn't care. They see me crying, they'll probably fire me. People like me, we don't matter. We're replaceable." Those words cut deep. Replaceable. The CEO's mind burned with anger. This was his company, his creation. And yet, here was a manual hard-working crushed beneath the weight of neglect. But outwardly, he kept his mask intact. "Maybe you matter more than you think," he said softly. The janitor looked at him then. Really looked at him, as if searching for sincerity in the stranger's eyes. He blinked back tears. "You think so?" The CEO nodded. "I know so." A silence lingered between them, heavy, but strangely comforting. The janitor seemed to draw strength from those simple words, though he had no idea they came from the very man who could change his life. Inside, the CEO's decision was forming. He could no longer just observe. He had to act, but the timing had to be right. The janitor's voice broke the silence. "Thank you for listening. Most people don't." The CEO's heart twisted. If only the man knew who was listening. He gave a small nod, stepping back, his cover still intact. "Anytime, don't carry it all alone." The janitor wiped his face one last time, gathering himself before picking up his mop again. But the weight on his shoulders hadn't lifted. Not yet. And as the CEO walked away into the dim corridor, one truth echoed louder than the rest. This wasn't just a worker's pain. It was a reflection of a company that had lost its soul. The mask was still on, but soon, it would have to come off. Cruelty often hides in plain sight. And now, with fresh eyes and a heavy heart, the undercover CEO began to notice what he had missed before. At first, it was subtle, sharp tones in supervisors' voices, dismissive gestures, orders barked without respect. But as the hours unfolded, the cruelty revealed itself in its true, unfiltered form. He lingered near the break room door, pretending to refill his water bottle. Inside, two supervisors leaned against the counter, laughing. Their voices dripped with arrogance. "Did you see old Henry crying again?" One sneered. "Guys, useless. Can't even keep the floors shining." The other chuckled. "Yeah, but he's cheap. Why replace him when he'll keep mopping for scraps?" The CEO's grip on the bottle tightened. His jaw clenched. Every instinct screamed to step in, to shout, to end this mockery, but he forced himself to wait. He needed to see it all. He needed undeniable truth. Moments later, the same supervisors stormed out to the floor. A younger cashier accidentally miscounted change. It was a small mistake easily fixed. But instead of guiding her, one supervisor leaned close and hissed, "You'll never last here if you keep screwing up. Maybe you should find a job you're actually good at." The girl's cheeks burned red. She bit her lip, blinking back tears as customers looked on. The humiliation was public, intentional, cruel, and yet no one stepped in. No one dared. Fear had spread like an invisible chain around the workers' necks. The CEO walked slowly past, locking eyes with the girl for just a second. Her silent plea lingered in his mind. This wasn't just about the janitor anymore. This was systemic. This was rot. Hours passed, and the hidden villains grew bolder. In the stockroom, the janitor carried 2 heavy crates alone. His back bent, his steps slow, but no one offered help. Instead, a supervisor shouted across the room, "Hurry up, old man. You're not getting paid to crawl." The crate slipped from the janitor's grip, crashing to the floor. A sickening silence followed. Then came laughter, mocking, sharp, unrelenting. The undercover CEO's fists clenched at his sides. His chest heaved with anger, but still he held the mask. Justice had to be bigger than one confrontation. Justice had to be absolute. Later, he found himself in the corner of the manager's office, pretending to sort through supplies. 2 supervisors bragged openly about cutting hours. "Keep them under 40, one said smugly. "That way corporate doesn't have to pay benefits. They'll complain, but what can they do? They need this job." The other nodded, smirking. "Exactly. Desperate people don't quit. They just keep working harder." The words hit like poison. The CEO realized with horror that this wasn't incompetence, it was deliberate exploitation. They weren't just turning a blind eye. They were building their power on fear and suffering. Every sneer, every insult, every cruel policy etched itself into his memory like a blade. He knew the audience watching this story unfold would feel what he felt now: age, sorrow, and the desperate hunger for justice. As he stepped out of the office, he caught sight of Henry again, the janitor, the man who had cried quietly, hoping no one would see. His shoulders slumped, his face lined with exhaustion. Yet he still mopped, still served, still carried the weight alone. And in that moment, the CEO made a silent vow. This would not continue. Not another day. But before he could act, he had to see it through. He had to witness every shadow, every cruelty, every villain that hid beneath the company's surface. Only then could the light of truth burn them away. The villains thought themselves untouchable, hidden behind titles and authority. They had no idea their time was running out. Sometimes the heaviest battles aren't fought with fists, but with the weight of silence finally breaking. The undercover CEO had watched long enough. He had seen the sneers, the dismissive orders, the laughter that cut deeper than knives. But nothing pierced him more than the sight of the janitor Henry slumped on a crate in the dimly lit stockroom, his mop leaning against the wall like a soldier's broken spear. At first, Henry sat quietly, staring at the floor. His shoulders trembled, his hands rubbed over his face as if trying to hide from a world that refused to see him. Then, slowly, the dam cracked. His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of years. "I can't do this anymore," he muttered, "day after day, giving everything I've got, and still treated like I'm nothing." The CEO, standing just a few steps away, froze. Every word sliced into him like a blade. Henry pressed his palms into his knees, breathing ragged. "I clean every corner. I fix what breaks. I cover shifts no one else wants. And what do I get? Mockery, delays in pay, like I'm invisible." He let out a hollow laugh, one soaked in bitterness. "Maybe that's all I am to them. Invisible." The CEO's throat tightened. He wanted to reach out, to grab Henry's hand and tell him, "You are not invisible. Not to me," but his cover held him back. For now, he was just another worker, another witness. Henry shook his head, eyes glistening. "Last week I thought about walking out, just leaving. My wife begged me not to. She said, 'Henry, we need this. For the medicine, for the bills,' so I stayed. But every day, it feels like I lose another piece of myself." His voice cracked, and the silence that followed was unbearable. The CEO shifted slightly, unable to hold back any longer. He leaned closer, his voice gentle, disguised but warm. "You're not nothing, Henry. You matter more than they know." The janitor blinked, startled. He hadn't realized anyone was listening. His eyes darted to the CEO, searching, uncertain. "Do I? Because it doesn't feel like it? Feels like I could disappear tomorrow and no one would care." The CEO swallowed hard. "I'd care," he said softly. "I see the work you do. I see the way you carry the weight no one else wants to carry. That takes strength most people can't imagine." Henry's lips trembled, caught between disbelief and fragile hope. But then, the raw truth spilled out. "They cut my pay last month. Said it was a mistake, but never fixed it. My boy's in the hospital, and I can't even cover all the bills. And when I ask, they tell me to be patient. patient, while my son waits for treatment. The CEO's chest burned. Inside, the storm raged anger at his own management, guilt that this had happened under his leadership, and a desperate urge to tear away the disguise. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the hum of a flickering light filled the room. Then Henry whispered the words that broke everything. Maybe I'm just tired of fighting, tired of being the man no one sees. The CEO's heart pounded in his chest. This was the breaking point, the moment where silence could no longer be an option. He clenched his fists, torn between the mask he wore and the truth burning inside him. Should he reveal who he really was? Should he end this torment now? Or should he wait, gather the final pieces, and unleash justice, not just for Henry but for everyone? The decision weighed heavy, pressing down like iron. One path risked everything. The other delayed salvation. Henry wiped at his eyes, unaware that the man beside him was more than a stranger. I just wish someone cared enough to change things, he whispered. And that was the moment the CEO realized he couldn't stay silent much longer. There are moments in life when masks must fall, when truth can no longer be contained. This was one of those moments. The CEO had listened to Henry's breaking voice, watched the cracks of injustice widen, and endured the cruelty of supervisors who thought themselves untouchable. But now, the weight of silence was unbearable. His heart thundered with one thought: it's time. He stepped out of the dim stockroom and into the heart of the store. Employees bustled, customers moved between aisles, and supervisors barked their usual orders, unaware that the ground beneath them was about to shift forever. The CEO's voice cut through the noise, calm, steady, but carrying authority. Excuse me, everyone, I need your attention. The room fell into uneasy silence. Workers froze mid. Supervisors turned sharply, irritation flickering on their faces. They saw him still dressed as a plain customer, still disguised, and they sneered. One supervisor folded his arms. Who are you to call a meeting? This isn't your place. The CEO's gaze was unflinching. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small badge, the symbol of his authority, the seal of his position. He held it up for all to see. I am your CEO. The words cracked like thunder. For a heartbeat, silence consumed the store. Then the shock rippled outward. Mouths dropped open. Cashiers stared, wide-eyed. The young girl who had once been humiliated by a supervisor clasped her hands to her mouth. Henry, the janitor, froze where he stood, his mop slipping from his grasp and clattering against the tile. The supervisors paled, their confidence evaporating in an instant. One stammered, You can't be serious." The CEO's eyes burned with controlled fire. "I am very serious, and I have seen everything today. Every word, every action, every cruelty you thought no one would notice." Whispers swept through the staff like wind through dry grass. Employees looked at one another, relief mixing with disbelief. The truth had walked into the light. Henry's lips parted, trembling. You're the boss." His voice carried shock, but also the faintest flicker of hope. The CEO stepped closer to him, his voice softening. "Yes, Henry, I am, and I saw your tears. I heard your pain. You are not invisible to me. Not anymore." Henry's eyes glistened, a man torn between shame for being witnessed and gratitude for finally being seen. The supervisors, however, scrambled to defend themselves. One barked nervously, "He's exaggerating." The staff complained about everything. "We run a tight ship, that's all." But the CEO turned, his voice sharp as steel. "No, what you run is a culture of fear, a place where hard-working people are mocked, underpaid, and broken down. That ends today." The air grew thick, heavy with the weight of revelation. No one moved. No one dared breathe. Every soul in that store waited for what would come next. For the first time, the supervisors felt powerless, stripped of their false authority, their faces drained of color, sweat beading on their brows. And for the first time, the staff felt a spark of power hope blooming where despair once lived. The CEO scanned the room, letting the silence stretch. His words landed like hammers. "This is not just my company. This is our company. And starting today, everything changes." Henry swallowed hard, his voice breaking. "Sir, I don't know what to say." The CEO placed a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to say anything. Just know this: you are seen. You are valued, and you will never be treated like nothing again." The staff erupted in murmurs, relief, awe, and the slow rise of courage. The store that had once echoed with commands and cruelty now pulsed with something new, anticipation. The unmasking was complete, but justice was still waiting. Some truths can be ignored, others can be hidden. But when the truth finally explodes into the open, there is no turning back. The store was silent, faces pale, hearts pounding. Moments ago, the CEO had unmasked himself before his staff. Now came the part no one was prepared for, the reckoning. He scanned the room, slowly, his eyes locking on the supervisors who had ruled with cruelty. Their confident smirks were gone, replaced by trembling lips and darting eyes. They looked like children caught in the act, except their sins were not childish. Their sins had crushed spirits. "Step forward," the CEO commanded. His voice carried the weight of thunder. The supervisors hesitated, their pride warring with fear. But one by one, they shuffled forward, their knees weak, their voices stuck in their throats. The CEO's tone sharpened. You thought no one was watching. You thought your titles gave you power. But leadership is not abuse. Authority is not a license for cruelty. And today's your time is over. A collective gasp swept through the store. Employees leaned in, eyes wide, as if history itself were unfolding before them. The CEO turned to the first supervisor, the one who had mocked the janitor for moving too slowly. You're fired, effective immediately. The man stammered, sir, please, but the CEO cut him off with a glare. No, you've had your chance. You abused it. Leave. The second supervisor tried to speak, her voice dripping with desperation. We didn't mean harm. We were just following policy. The CEO's voice dropped to a chilling.com. Policy never demands cruelty. Only people choose that. And you chose it again and again. You're finished here. Her face crumpled. She lowered her head and walked toward the door, shame following like a shadow. The third supervisor attempted defiance. You'll regret this. We kept this place running. The CEO stepped closer, his words piercing like arrows. No, the people you abused kept this place running. The janitor you mocked. The cashiers you silenced. The clerks you ignored. They are the backbone, not you. The man had no reply. He turned, humiliated, and stormed out. One by one, the abusers were stripped of their false crowns. Their exit felt like a cleansing wind, sweeping away the poison that had tainted the store. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then the CEO shifted his gaze toward the employees, the ones who had endured. His voice softened, but still carried strength. Now, listen to me. Everything changes today. From this moment forward, you will work in a place of respect. No more fear, no more cruelty. If you work hard, you will be rewarded. If you show kindness, it will be recognized. This is not just a company. This is a family, and families lift each other up. The employees' faces lit with something they had not felt in years. Hope. Some even blinked back tears. And then his eyes found Henry, the janitor, still standing frozen near his mop. The CEO walked toward him slowly, the room parting in silence. When he reached him, he spoke gently, his voice carrying both authority and compassion. Henry, I owe you more than words. You've carried the weight of this place on your shoulders. You've given years of your life without recognition. That ends today. Henry's lips trembled. Sir, I'm just the janitor. The CEO shook his head. No, you are not just anything. You are the man who showed up every day, even when invisible. You are the man who swallowed pain to keep going. That is not small. That is strength. And strength deserves honor. The CEO turned toward the staff. From this day forward, Henry will no longer be treated as invisible. He will receive a raise, full benefits for his family, and recognition for his service. And let this be clear, this company sees him. I see him, and he will never be overlooked again. The employees erupted in applause. Henry stood stunned, his eyes welling with tears that fell freely down his cheeks. For the first time in years, they were not tears of despair but of dignity restored. He whispered, barely able to speak, "Thank you. I don't deserve this." The CEO placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "You deserve more than this, and I promise, you will get it." In that moment, the store transformed. The walls that had echoed with orders and insults now vibrated with something new, belief. Employees looked at Henry with admiration. They looked at their CEO with respect. And for the first time, they looked at themselves with pride. But the reckoning was not only about punishment, it was also about a new beginning. The CEO gathered everyone closer. There will be changes. New training, new policies. Every single one of you will have the chance to grow, to rise, to be more than what others told you. This is the future we will build together. The staff exchanged glances, nervous, excited, overwhelmed. But deep inside, hope burned like fire. Henry wiped his tears, lifting his chin higher than before. For the first time in a long time, he felt seen, he felt valued, he felt human again. And as the CEO looked out across the store, at the faces of ordinary people who deserved extraordinary respect, he knew something important. Profit may keep a company alive, but people give it a soul. And that, above all, was the truth he wanted them to remember. The reckoning had come, the rewards had been given, and in its place, something far greater had been born, a culture of dignity, respect, and humanity.